Noon, good evening. It's good to see everyone. Like Sherelle mentioned, this is the last session in our series on television. So many of you have sent me suggestions between the sessions about other clips to talk about. And what it really turns out is there are so many more things we could talk about in this series. Given the limits of time, I had to pick and choose very specifically. So yes, I realizing just how much we left out. I mean, just the list of things we didn't manage to cover. So something very recent, like a recent episode of The Equalizer, and old stuff like we didn't have time to talk about the Three Stooges or Jack Benny or things like that. There's a whole lot to talk about. So, like I said, there's lots to talk about. And this week, what I want to do is I want to sort of get to as much without rushing, get to as much additional stuff in our last session and kind of tie it all together. So let's dive right into it. One of the things we've seen, especially from the 60s, I would say through the 1990s, is there were many Jewish characters on television shows, but they weren't overtly or explicitly Jewish. They were what we might call invisibly Jewish. So this is true of older shows like the Dick Van Dyke Show, where certainly, Carl Reiner is the head of the show that the main character, Rob Petrie, Dick Van Dyke, is on, and the other writers, clearly they're Jewish, although it's never fully stated, or maybe in one episode. But that's an example of invisibly Jewish. Later, in the 90s, there was a show called Mad About You, which is about the relationship between, it's based on the comedy of Paul Reiser, where he plays Paul Buckman, who is married to Jamie Stemple, who is not Jewish. And the story of their marriage, their relationship, their family is really what it revolves about. And it's clearly that Paul Buckman is Jewish. They rarely actually say it explicitly. And I mention that because there's a great episode on the show where Paul Buckman, that's Paul Reiser's character, who is basically playing an aspiring filmmaker. He's making a documentary about his own family, and he's looking for someone to narrate it. And he reaches out to, Alan Brady, who was Carl Reiner's character on the Dick Van Dyke Show. So there's not only is there this great crossover between two shows that were separated by 30 years, but this notion of invisible Jewishness is present in this crossover, and it's present in both shows, and it's right there. So let's look at a little clip when Paul Buckman, who's played by Paul Reiser, is meeting Alan Brady, who's played by Carl Reiner. Now, at no point are they going to say, you're Jewish, I'm Jewish, but it's very clear that they're both characters are Jewish. Let's watch a little bit of this clip from Mad About You.
He asked that you wait at his table.
His table?
Yes.
This is his own table?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, dig me, I'm at Alan Brady's table. I have my own table. This is my table. Do you like my table? It's my table. It's mahogany.
What is this?
Mr. Brady, how are you, sir?
What are you doing?
What?
What are you doing?
I was just sitting.
Where?
Right here.
Where?
At your table.
Where at my table?
Right here.
Where?
In the chair.
What chair?
This chair.
Whose chair?
Your chair.
Ah!
I was sitting in your chair. I'm so sorry.
I would think so.
And my wife may be a little bit late.
Who?
My wife.
Late for what?
For dinner.
You're bringing your wife?
Well, you told me.
Sure, bring your wife. Why don't you bring your mother?
Got any kids?
No. Oh, what a shame. I was hoping to feed a whole family. Maurice, free eats for everybody.
Really?
Shut up. Get out of here. You got a cigar?
Cigar? No.
Give me $1. It's a joke. It's a joke. Where are you going to get a cigar for $1 now? It all jokes. It all jokes.
Sorry I'm late.
Get out of here.
What?
I must have made a mistake or something. No. I already told him you're here. Okay, just sit down.
Not there!
What? Him's the matter with me.
Who?
Oh, Brady.
What about him?
Oh, he's so mean. Mr. Brady, let me introduce. This is my wife.
Mr. Brady?
Call me Alan.
I'm Jamie.
What are you doing sitting there?
He told me to.
There's a draft there. Take my chair. Tell me, if we haven't met anywhere before.
No, I'm sure I'd remember.
Oh, yes, you would. Well, anyway, what the heck, we're here now. Where's my napkin?
So first of all, you know that one little exchange is making reference to the classic waiter tastes the soup joke, the chair joke. Someone noticed in the chat that there was the episode of the Dick Van Dyke Show when Maury Amsterdam he had a bar mitzvah. Like I said, there were some episodes where they did, but for the most part, it's quiet. And I'm mad about you also. There are moments when the Jewishness is more explicit. There is Paul Buckman's uncle in a later episode is played by Mel Brooks. So they go to a family funeral, and the guy giving the eulogy at the funeral home is David Steinberg, and Sid Caesar is there. So there's this kind of a lot of shtick coming all together. Now, other shows like Friends in the 90s, there were two characters who were Jewish, Ross and Monica Geller, and only occasionally does the Jewishness comes out. But in one episode, Ross, who is married, he's married to a woman who's not Jewish. Actually, he's married and divorced. His first wife is not Jewish. And they have a child together. And there's an episode where Ross wants his child, Ben, to know about Hanukkah. So the trope that this is really addressing is the whole Christmas Hanukkah thing. You know, Christmas is very popular. Hanukkah's around the same time. Do Jewish kids feel left out because there's no mention of Hanukkah? You know, like the Adam Sandler song, here's a Hanukkah song. But also, it's this moment, which is almost a little bit of a non sequitur, where suddenly the character, Ross Geller, is realizing that whatever Jewish heritage he has may not be getting passed along to his son. So let's watch a little bit where Ross attempts to teach his son, Ben, who's about 5 or 6 years old, who knows all about Christmas, tries to teach him a little bit about Hanukkah. It doesn't go as he expects.
Sorry, give me a moment here.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, you don't feel like you're gonna throw up, do you?
No.
Well, I do, so let's... So, Ben, you know what holiday is coming up, don't you?
Christmas.
Yep, and you know what other holiday is coming up?
Christmas Eve.
Yes, but also... Hanukkah! See, you're part Jewish, and Hanukkah is a Jewish holiday.
Santa has reindeers that can fly.
Right, but on Hanukkah is a celebration of a miracle. See, years and years ago, there were these people called the Maccabees.
Jingle bells, jingle bells.
Okay, that's right, yes, but on Hanukkah, we sing, dreidel, 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 I made you out of clay.
Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer.
Okay, it's not a contest.
When is Santa coming?
Well, how about this year, instead of Santa, we have fun celebrating Hanukkah?
No Santa? Was I bad?
No, oh, no, hey, you weren't bad, you've been very good, Ben.
Santa's mad at me.
No, hey, come on. Ben, Santa is not mad at you, okay? Hey, you're his favorite little guy.
So Santa's coming?
Yes! Santa's coming!
There. So I think what that's really, this is an episode where they're really starting to address, first of all, they're starting to address in a broad way the challenges of a Jewish kid, or a kid who has one parent who's Jewish, one parent who's not, what it means for try to convey the Jewish half of that kid's tradition in the face of a culture which is overwhelmingly Christian, which is obviously can be very, very challenging. Now, the way this episode, where it eventually goes, I mean, it is a comedy, and it gets a little goofy sometimes. Is Ross, the dad, he ultimately isn't able to find a Hanukkah costume, and the only costume left in the store, because he wants to dress up in the same way there are Christmas costumes, is an armadillo costume, which he explains to Ben is the Hanukkah armadillo. And then Santa winds up coming up, and it winds up being this sort of happy, okay, we'll have Christmas and Hanukkah. That's the sort of reality they're trying to paint in that one. Now, a lot of the shows we've watched, a lot of the clips have been centered in New York City or in LA, in big cities. I think one of the things eventually that the reality that television caught up with respect to Jews in America is that not all Jews live in New York, not all Jews live in big cities. There are Jews who live in smaller towns as well. And that small town Jewish experience, I think, wasn't only elusive with respect to television and even films and things like that, but just in terms of telling the larger American Jewish experience, what it means to be Jewish in a smaller town is something that kind of gets lost sometimes. A little bit, I can speak to this personally. Before we moved back to Detroit, we lived in Waterville, Maine for the better part of 10 years. Waterville, Maine is population 12,000. When we lived there were fewer than 100 Jews. The synagogue was not active. They've since hired a new rabbi who sort of revived the place, but there was very little going on. I mean, we were the only Jewish couple we knew who were not an intermarried couple. So I never really appreciated what it meant to be Jewish in a small town until then, and that was that was the late 90s. But I think finally television also caught up. So I want to give you a couple of examples here. The first is what I think is a very pioneering show called Northern Exposure. Now, Northern Exposure, the premise here is that there is a medical student from New York named Joel Fleischman, who is the main character, played by Rob Morrow. And the point of departure here is he gets this grant, or he gets this prize to go to for this grant giving organization, for all he knows, basically to pay for his medical school. But what either he doesn't realize or he's trying to avoid is that one of the caveats of this fellowship, of this prize, of getting free medical school tuition, which is quite a lot, is that when he becomes a doctor, he has to go and be the doctor in the hometown of this grant, which is Sicily, Alaska. I mean, really, really in the middle of nowhere. And the very first episode, he tries to get out of it, and sort of the leader of this community and the wealthy man who put up the money, whose name is Maurice Minifield, basically says, you don't have to come to Sicily if you don't want to, just give us all the money back, which of course he doesn't have the money because he's starting out. So that's the premise of the show. He goes and lives in this small town. He's the only Jew there. There's really, I mean, he initially is isolated, but one of the things this show captures really nicely is the fact that in a small town, people can be very different, but what characterizes life in a small town for Jews and everyone else is that neighbors or people in a small town, they not only know each other, they all need each other. And so he comes to not only know, but rely on his friends and neighbors. And eventually he's using his relationship with his neighbors to open up about his own Jewish identity and to learn about what it means to be Jewish. Being the only Jew around is going to help them. Now, in this town in Alaska, there are many Inuit. There are Native Americans living there. And here's a scene where he is talking to one of his friends about Native American culture and what he can learn from that about his own Jewish identity. So let's look for that. Let's watch that clip from Northern Exposure.
Ed, let me ask you something. What does belonging to your own tribe mean to you?
Bingo.
Bingo? You mean like bingo? That's it?
Well, I was raised by the tribe, but since I didn't have parents, I was passed around a lot.
I never really thought about it. Belonging to a tribe. I belong to the Jewish tribe, so to speak, but I'm also an American, you know? But what does that mean? I mean, if they're an American tribe, it's more like a zillion special interest groups. In my own case, I am a New Yorker, I am a Republican, a Knicks fan. Maybe we've outgrown tribes, you know? It's the global village thing. It's telephones, faxes, CNN. I mean, basically, we all belong to the same tribe.
That's true, but you can't hang out with 5 billion people.
That's a good point. Come on, Dizzy. It's not good for your digestion.
Nice day.
Yeah.
Okay, So I think I love the line from that clip where, yes, we all belong to this large tribe called humanity, but you can't hang out with everybody. You have to find that smaller group of people who are like you, who have things in common with you. This is a lesson that Joel Fleischman is learning in Sicily, Alaska, that he never learned when he lived in New York City, because in New York City, and there are episodes where you meet his family, when he maybe goes back to visit, and his Jewishness he sort of took for granted or just outright ignored. And it's only when he's in a small town where it becomes more pronounced and he really begins to engage it. Now, an example of being Jewish in a small town comes from the mind of a very important television show creator, producer, director, whose name is Amy Sherman-Paladino. Now, you probably know her most recently because she's the one who created the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which, rest assured, we will get to. I'm not going to have a series on television without talking about Midge Maisel. But her first real breakout show was called Gilmore Girls. Now, Amy Sherman-Paladino, her father is Jewish, her mother is Christian, but whenever she was asked about her own identity, she always says she was raised and she is Jewish, sort of, was always her answer. But there is a Jewishness to her. Now, for the most part, the show Gilmore Girls doesn't have anything specifically to do with really anything Jewish. It takes place in a small town called Stars Hollow in Connecticut. And the basic premise of the show is the two main characters. One is Lorelai Gilmore, who she grew up in a rich, elite family in Hartford, Connecticut, really, rich Connecticut, elite, Christian in all the ways you would imagine. She had a child out of wedlock at 16, and she basically split from her parents because of it. And she left at the age of 16 with an infant to make it on her own, to get away from her parents, which is a theme they revisit later in the movie. And until her child is 14 years old, they move from this town, from Hartford to Stars Hollow. And the town essentially helps her raise her daughter, who's called Rory, which is short for Lorelai. She essentially named her after herself. So that's the premise. So most of what happens is in this small town, Stars Hollow, and it is this quaint little small town. Another example where everybody knows everybody and everybody needs everybody. But there's the one scene I love, and this is what I mean by the Jewishness of it just pops up from time to time. So, for example, when Lorelai has a close friend who runs the local diner, Luke Danes, who clearly that's the love interest that they're waiting seasons to develop. There's a point where they're just friends for the moment, but there's a scene where Lorelai gets engaged with someone else, and Luke, even though he's very much disappointed, he makes her a chuppah for no particular reason. He just wants to help with her wedding. She's not Jewish. He isn't Jewish. The groom isn't Jewish, but he just makes her a chuppah, and they explain on the show what a chuppah is. But the clip I want to watch is almost an aside where in this town, the guy who's the mayor and basically owns the local grocery store and the one who annoys everyone is named Taylor. And he's the town nudnik, although they don't call him a nudnik because that's not what nudniks are called in Stars Hollow. And there's a scene where he's objecting to a decision that the town has made to allow a local minstrel, a local performer he was trying to get him off the street because he finds him annoying. But the local church and the local synagogue are allowing this guy to use the front of their building to sing outside in the street. And so Taylor, the nudnik, meets with the rabbi and the minister to talk about this. And this is what happens. We need some sound.
Heading this revolt, Reverend Skinner and I should unanimously refuse to let that loner freak protest in the square. Why would the two of you consider allowing him to do it from the steps of your church?
The town didn't refuse him, Taylor. You did.
So you're spearheading this revolt, Reverend.
Reverend Skinner and I share the church for services, Taylor. So if there's going to be a protest, it'll be a joint decision.
I can't even look at this mayonnaise.
I got it, David.
Thanks, Archie.
I could still ban it. I could get the town council together, find something on the books. I'm sure there's a way.
The church is exempt from your town statutes, Taylor.
We answer to a higher authority, like the hot dog.
I laugh every time you say that.
I know, funny is funny.
Well, I can guarantee that God does not want this either.
Did you hear that, David? Taylor Dosey is in direct communication with God.
30 years I'm working for God. I haven't received so much as a card.
Is it by phone that you speak with him, Taylor?
Do you have a God phone, Taylor?
Rabbi, please.
What's he like for us common folk who've never met him?
Is he short? Is he tall?
Does he like to laugh?
Is the whole shellfish thing really serious? Because I gotta tell you, some of these Red Lobster commercials.
They look good, huh?
Oh, well, with the melted butter.
Can we stay serious for a minute here?
You're too uptight, Taylor.
And no matter how much steam blows out of your ears, our decision will be final.
So it's hardball, huh? Well, the council gave you special permission to run bingo out of that building. We could withdraw it.
At your peril.
Meaning?
You're gonna tell my little old ladies, my bubbies, you're shutting down their bingo?
I'm not afraid of your bubbies, Rabbi.
Oh, God, thank you for letting me be in the room when Taylor said that.
Well, gentlemen, I would sincerely like to thank you for wasting my time.
Our pleasure, Taylor.
I can't believe that you, Reverend Skinner of all people, would do this to me after all the support I've given you over the years.
All the support. Taylor, you're a Sunday Protestant. You come in, you say, hi, God, you sing a song, and you leave.
I always leave $1.
For your singing voice, you should leave 2.
Well, fine. If you feel like that, maybe I will just stop showing up altogether. Maybe I'll convert to something else and give them my generous weekly donation.
You want him?
Not after that whole bubbies thing.
Maybe the Shakers in Woodbury would take him.
Yeah, he's already got the beard. Can you make furniture, Taylor?
Goodbye.
What I love about that clip is just the the rapport between the rabbi and the minister. This is what I mean about not only knowing your neighbors but needing them. They have a close relationship. They're clearly friends. He's the only rabbi. He's the only minister of his denomination, and they're clergy friends. That's the nature of being in a small town. And I think just like Northern Exposure, Amy Sherman-Paladino did a great job about it. Now, for Amy Sherman-Paladino, who grew up in a mixed household, there's also this notion of this fluid boundary between Jews and others. There's clearly a Jewishness in her, but she also recognizes that there is a non-Jewish world there as well. And this is something that she's going to explore in her most famous show. Yes, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which really not only is it her prize show, but it's I think one of the best shows on television in the last decade. It's such an interesting show. Now, if you haven't seen it, and don't worry, I won't give any spoilers if you hadn't seen it. The basic premise of the show is it's situated back in a big city, in New York City. And it takes place in the early 1960s. And in television, let's say like in Mad Men, early 1960s is usually code for before the feminist revolution, when women were still housewives and men went to work, before the civil rights movement, when there was still that situation. That's usually what late 50s, early 60s means when a show there, that sort of old-fashioned traditional world. But in that situation, Midge Maisel, she is your classic upper middle class New York City, Manhattan housewife. She's got 2 kids. She is the quintessential Jewish wife, Jewish mother, Jewish daughter. When the show starts, her husband, I don't give any spoilers, he's an aspiring stand-up comedian, and she's trying to help him make it. And this is about the most Jewish thing I can imagine. She's bringing brisket to his club and giving it to the club manager, and this is in the opening episode, to convince the club manager to put her husband on stage, because her husband really isn't that funny. He's not that good at it, but she's trying to help. So the initial point of departure is the first episode is Erev Yom Kippur, or maybe right after Yom Kippur, whichever it is. They're having the festive meal. It's either before Yom Kippur or right after Yom Kippur. But they managed to invite the rabbi. The rabbi is coming. Her parents are there, and his parents are there. She lives in the same apartment building, she and her husband and their kids, as her parents. They're all going to have this dinner. They're all going to have this festive meal together, and for before or after Yom Kippur. And this is the moment when the husband reveals that he's been having an affair and that he wants a divorce. This is when their marriage begins to fray. And that's really the point of departure of the show. But at that point, she's so distraught, she runs out of the house, she runs to his club, she gets on the stage and basically just starts to rant, but her rant turns into phenomenal stand-up. And that's where the show goes. Now, the show wasn't exactly based, it's loosely based on the life of the stand-up comedian Joan Rivers, because Joan Rivers wasn't just a great stand-up and very funny, if you like her kind of comedy. But she really was, achieved an unprecedented level of success, popularity for a Jewish woman comedian. It's hard to find, other than maybe Sophie Tucker, who was a bit of a different, who was decades earlier. It's hard to find an example like that. And in her career, Joan Rivers just encounters obstacles after obstacles. But for our purposes here, and we'll come back to talk a little bit more about the comedy, about her stand-up comedy angle or the career angle. But what the show does, I mean, what the show is able to do, it's really a collection of great, I wouldn't even call them stereotypes. It's more comedic caricatures where all the different characters they're different versions. So for example, her father is a math professor at Columbia. His father is in the dry goods business. They're very different, but they are two clear versions of what it means to be a Jewish father in New York. One, the more intellectual one, the hyper intellectual one the business guy who's not that book smart, but is very street smart. So let's look at an encounter between the two dads, because we've spoken about the Jewish mother before. Let's speak a little bit about the Jewish father. Now, in this particular scene, the one dad is trying to convince the other one to help him. Well, the other dad owns the apartment where Mrs. Maisel and her family live, and when they're getting divorced, he wants to sell it to get the money for it. But the other dad says, "Let's keep it. This is a way to get them back together." So let's see how that exchange goes. This is Abe and Moish.
Please, tell me you've come to let me fit you for a decent suit. My God, Abe, I've been trying to get you to tweet since Hector was a pup.
I'm not here for a suit, Moish. No.
Or something for Rosie, then. Not that I've ever seen her wear the same thing twice.
She has plenty of clothes.
Well, then what?
Well,
it's about dinner. I know. It was a terrible night. I'm sorry it took that turn, all that yelling, all that emotion.
It was very emotional.
Well, you try to make someone do the right thing. It doesn't always work out.
Moish.
Uh-oh. Serious face. Easter Island face. I know that face.
I was wondering, is there any way I can get you to change your mind about taking back the apartment?
Nope, no way. I paid for it. I overpaid for it.
I know.
It was mine to take back. My son knew this.
I'm sure he did.
So what's the point, Hooray? Why are you even bringing this up?
I want to get the kids back together.
Join the club.
And the apartment is a big piece of that puzzle.
I've already put it on the market.
You can take it off the market.
People are going to love the layout, and it's so close to the park.
I'll pay for half the apartment.
What do you mean you pay for half?
So we're each in 50-50. Co-owners. Then we keep it available if and when Joel and Miriam get back together.
50-50, huh?
Yes.
Like we did the temple seats.
Yes, just like we did the temple seats.
And you can swing that. Place ain't cheap.
I can swing it.
You can swing for that, but not for a better suit?
My suits are fine.
Your suits are old.
My suits are good.
I shouldn't say it.
No, go ahead, say it.
I never thought you liked me so much.
No, I like you very much, Moish.
I don't know. We invite you over, you never come.
School keeps me busy.
Shirley never sees enough of Rosie.
That we should fix.
And maybe it's me, but you always seem to have a weird attitude whenever I brought up the 13. You know what I'm talking about? The 13 people I got out of Germany in 43.
No, I know who they are.
That great cause, that great sacrifice I did that in.
I have nothing but admiration for the great sacrifice you made to get those poor people out of Germany, Moish.
You do?
Yes, very much.
Good. Good. I'll take the offer, 50-50 for the kids.
Thank you, Moish.
Look at this.
Huh?
Look at this. Come here.
A great love-hate relationship between those two guys. Incidentally, one is Tony Shalhoub, the other is Kevin Pollak, if you didn't already recognize them. Now, the other important character in the show is Midge's manager, Susie Meyerson. Now, they're both Jewish. And I think what the understated part of this character is they're very, very different, because Mrs. Maisel is like the quintessentially put together, beautiful, glamorous, stylish, fashionable, likable personality. And her manager, Susie Myers, is the exact opposite. She's unrefined, she's crude, she's angry, she has no style. Half the time she gets mistaken for a man. I mean, they're very, very different. But what the two of them have in common, and what ultimately makes the two of them partners in all of this, is they're both breaking the same glass ceiling, trying to make it as women, especially Jewish women, in an industry which is dominated by men and by Jewish men. And they're both facing in their own area, her as performer and the other as manager and agent. They're both facing the same kind of resistance, and ultimately they work together to help each other out. And I think that's one of the remarkable things is where the show goes without giving too much away. And in the last season, Midge breaks a serious boundary where she becomes a writer on a show called The Gordon Ford Show. Now, the Gordon Ford is, he is the caricature of this sort of Gentile, waspy TV host, basically Johnny Carson or some other version of that. Now, on the show, which is filmed before a small live audience, the writers are all men. They're all college graduates, that sort of writers. She's the first writer, but what she really wants is to get in front of the camera and perform on the show. And she has this tense give and take with Gordon Ford, trying to convince him to let her go on the show. And his main reason for not letting her go on the show is because it's simply never been done before. And he's not someone who wants to break down that barrier. So, and meanwhile, her manager is trying to push from behind the scenes. But here's an exchange between Midge and Gordon Ford about that very thing, about him giving her an opportunity. And she's going to play what we might call the Jack Parr card. She got an offer from Jack Parr to do it, and that's his big rival. And does he want to do for us? Let's take a look at her exchange with Gordon Ford.
Down the street, and suddenly you meet a pair of brown eyes dancing alone.
Why are you getting a raise?
Oh, hi. What?
You're getting a raise. Why?
Am I?
Yes.
Says who?
The raise fairy.
Oh, why?
That's my question. You didn't know?
I didn't know.
It's a big one, too. You've been making as much as the men.
Jiminy Crickets.
More than one of them.
Oh, Ralph. Is it Ralph?
Oh, I'm not telling you that. Yes, it's Ralph.
Well, this is very serious. I mean, if this gets out, every working woman will want to get paid just as much as a man to do the exact same job, and our entire civilization will collapse.
Exactly.
Can't help you, Mike. And the show has begun. Hi. Got a sec?
No.
Okay.
I guess I do.
I was just wondering, why did I get a raise?
You know why.
No, I don't.
Danny Stevens tried to poach you, so I had to bid against him to keep you. That's how business works. Congratulations.
You feel very good about it, I see.
I'm fine. He's banned from such shore again.
Well, you did attack him with his own garnish tray.
Midge, is there anything else I can help you with?
Nope. You know, I don't think he was hitting on me. I know when men are hitting on me.
Oh, he was.
You are not a woman.
You are not a man.
No, but I get paid like one now, apparently.
He's a smooth operator. You probably didn't pick up on it.
Right. Probably because it didn't happen.
It happened, okay?
It didn't, but sure. Whatever you say.
Yes, Midge?
I'm gonna do a showcase for Jack Parr tonight. Got a fancy dress on and everything. Shaved my whole leg, front and back. He's gonna be there, Jack Parr. 12 comics are performing. I'm the only girl. Gives me a little leg up. Hence the shaving. Got a good spot toward the end. So, wanna book me first? Beat him to the punch? No? Yes? Maybe? Okay. Well. Going once. Going twice.
You're not supposed to back away when you're counting down like that. You stand in front of a person, you say once, twice, and then go.
Okay. Thanks for the tip. I'll remember that. I'm gonna get this. You'll see.
Now, I want to look at one last clip from Mrs. Maisel. And this is another just a great scene when she and her soon-to-be ex-husband are finalizing their divorce. It's an amicable divorce. They both realize that even though the initial impetus for it was him being unfaithful, that they realize they really have fallen out of love. They want to move on, even though they want to move on for the moment. And in the court proceeding, this is when, first of all, her manager is there, and her personality is there. But this, I think, is this scene is very this is a very Jewish shtick kind of scene, because they want this divorce to be simple, and it's a very amicable divorce, but the judge is having trouble accepting the concept that an amicable divorce is an authentic divorce. So let's watch a little bit of this divorce proceedings.
Pictures were taken by a man hired by Mrs. Daly to follow Mr. Daly, Your Honor.
Meaning a private investigator licensed by the state of New York, I assume.
Correct, Your Honor.
Very good.
Mrs. Daly was forced to
Should just be another minute. He's wrapping up here.
Great. Thank you, Leslie.
Due to the urgency of her
Have a minute.
All right.
You okay?
Okay-ish.
We
And you?
also have here a
I wore the wrong tie.
What's the right time?
I don't know. Not this one.
Hey, Susie, I know you don't want me here. I just gotta get you to that photo shoot. You on time? Why is this judge talking so slow? Has he been talking this slow the whole time? Someone need to put another quarter in him?
I don't need a fucking babysitter.
Actually, Princess, you kind of fucking do. You her lawyer? You talk fast? Let's hear you talk.
Jesus.
Hi, Susie.
That's not our relationship.
Go wait outside.
Calendar number 9, Maisel versus Maisel.
Good. Go, go, go.
Is she going into labor or something?
Let's just do this before she has a complete conniption.
Judge Wagaman, good afternoon. My name is Leslie Nunberg, and I'm representing Miriam Maisel in this matter.
Good afternoon, Miss Nunberg, Mrs. Maisel.
Good afternoon.
So these proceedings were originally scheduled for a couple months from now, but they've been moved up?
Yes, Your Honor. There were extenuating circumstances, and we thank you for your understanding.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
So let's jump in here. Now, I've read the affidavits, and they look straightforward and in order, so this shouldn't take long.
Yes.
We need silence from the gallery, please. And I see no indication that Mr. Joel Maisel is contesting this.
That's right, Your Honor.
I asked for silence.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'm Mr. Maisel, and I was just sorry about the tie.
Mr. Maisel? You're the husband?
I am, yes.
What are you doing here? Are you contesting?
No, sir, I'm not contesting.
Then why are you here?
Just moral support for my wife.
Well, she divorces you.
That's right.
For adultery.
That's right.
It's very modern. It's almost French. But now, all this seems a little less straightforward.
Your Honor, the arrangement between Mr. and Mrs. Maisel is completely amicable.
Well, that'll be a first.
Well, they are ready to move forward.
I'm not so sure of that. The couple before you, they were at each other's throats. That's the norm. It seems like the two of you are something different, and I want to make sure you're not making a mistake here.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Quiet!
We are not making a mistake, Your Honor.
But your husband is here lending moral support. Explain to me how that fits into this.
It doesn't? Joel, get the fuck out of here.
You're the one who's not supposed to be here.
Whoa, order! Right now! Who is this person?
That is my manager, Your Honor.
Manager of what?
Your Honor, I'm a performer, a comedian, and I'm about to go on the road.
A comedian?
Yes.
Why?
I don't sing.
Your Honor, she's downplaying this. She's going on the road with Shy Baldwin. It's a huge thing.
And you're okay with this?
I am.
You both seem okay with everything?
We are.
Which brings me back to my point. Why are you divorcing?
I just can't be a wife right now.
Okay, but what about your children, Ethan and Esther? Are they going on the road with you?
No, I'm taking care of them.
But you're the father.
I know.
He's the father.
I know.
What am I missing here?
The fucking photo shoot.
He's the father. He's going to take care of the kids. You're not missing anything.
Okay, last try. Take some time. Cool down. Rethink things. Come back later.
No, they're ready. Come on, and talk faster.
I want you gone from this courtroom.
Look, I didn't just commit adultery once, okay? I slept with a ton of other women. Had them lined up from here to Sheboygan.
What?
Just go with me here.
Really?
Yes.
I'm one of them, Your Honor. We had a hot, sexy thing going on. I'm talking dungeon stuff, barnyard stuff. He's a bad guy. You should go ahead and grant that lady a divorce. Go on. Bang the gavel.
Susie, sit down.
The two of you, I would grant a divorce, no questions asked. Now, everybody just clam up, okay? Look, if you two don't want more time to think about it, I can't force you. The petition for divorce is granted. Next case.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you. I'm leaving.
Let's proceed here. Next case, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Calendar number 11, Livingston versus the estate of Jonathan Gregorio.
Very good. Now, if I remember correctly, this was delayed from December. Are all the... Oh, will you two leave, please?
See, breaking new ground, it isn't only her breaking the glass ceiling and trying to make it in show business, which is, of course, very much like Joan Rivers' own experience, who was a writer and then couldn't get on stage. But the other groundbreaking thing in this episode is the possibility that a couple can get divorced in a more mature way, and that sometimes maybe not being married and just raising the children together as friends might be something better, which was a very far-fetched idea in the early 1960s. It captures it very well. One of the things I want to mention about Mrs. Maisel is that, you know, there's a recurrence in television where oftentimes a woman the character who is Jewish is played by someone not Jewish. So, I mean, the first one was Rhoda, played by Valerie Harper, and here is Miriam Maisel, played by Rachel Brosnahan, who's not Jewish. But in both cases, it didn't really matter because they both play Jewish so well. The characters really come across. And what makes someone like Amy Sherman-Palladino or Mary Tyler Moore, who produced the Rhoda show, is that recognizing that good acting is good acting. You don't necessarily need someone Jewish to bring across Jewish. You need good writing and you need good acting. Now, you know, as time went on, and as things Jewish became more well-known and more mainstream, it was possible for all kinds of shows, including comedians, to actually put them on their show in an informative and interesting way. And I think there are a number of different ideas, especially having to do with Israel. Israel becomes part of the the comedy world of television at one point. And I want to give you a couple of examples here. The nighttime talk show host Conan O'Brien, he did a series of shows or specials where he traveled around to different countries of the world to explore the culture and the people of different countries. Really what he's doing is his challenge for himself is, can I go to some country and find the funny there? And he has one of these episodes where he goes to Israel, and like he does everywhere, Conan O'Brien is able to find the funny. Now, one thing I will point out is that Conan O'Brien is about 6'5" with red hair and pale skin. Where all these countries he goes to, especially countries in the Middle East, and he goes to Ghana, he stands out like a sore thumb wherever he goes, which adds to the funny. So here's a short bit from when he goes to Israel. This is his encounter with Israelis in Tel Aviv.
Can I join you? Let me remove my shoes. This is a very inexpensive Airbnb.
Yes.
Am I taking too much? Am I eating too much?
No.
Am I have more cake?
Yes, of course. You can take all the cake.
I can have all the cake?
Yes.
Thank you. I love this country! You're so giving. Don't take my cake! That's my cake!
You want Israeli beer?
You have Israeli beer?
Yes.
Sure. This is Gold Star beer.
Yes.
You know what? If I get paid by Gold Star, I will split all the money with you guys. Let's just shoot a quick commercial for Gold Star. Everyone laugh like I just said something funny. Oh, hi. Conan O'Brien here. Just having a nice picnic in Tel Aviv and enjoying some Gold Star beer. Gold Star. It's the beer to have when you're in Tel Aviv on a blanket with people you don't know.
Gold Star.
After the picnic, it was time to hit the famous beaches of Tel Aviv. Shabbat Shalom! Shabbat Shalom! Shabbat Shalom!
For you on the house.
This is, no, I want to pay for it, please.
Don't pay.
I don't like this. This is awkward. There's like 800 Israelis behind me. Watch me. This isn't the flavor I want.
Welcome to Tel Aviv.
Check it out. This is Shai, lifeguard here at Tel Aviv Beach. You've got the best job in the world.
Perfect job.
And whoa! Who the hell is this guy? Why are you wearing a sweater at the beach? Oh my God, look at that! Oh Lord, I'm finding things in here. You can hang your sunglasses in here, right? You just put them in and they hang, right? Oh my God, that's crazy. Attention, attention. This is Conan O'Brien. This is an important announcement. Will all Israeli men wearing Speedos please leave the area? Again, all Israeli men wearing Speedos. No one wants to see your junk. why is there an Elvis impersonator
You
on
can
the
stop it
beach
there
in
for
Tel
that.
Aviv?
You can stop it there. Yes. So one of the reasons that plays so well is Conan puts it on at a point where Israel and Israelis and Tel Aviv is familiar enough to an American audience, and not only an American Jewish audience, but to appreciate the humor there. Now, another show that also incorporates Israel, in particular, the whole notion of Jews visiting Israel is the show Broad City. Now, Broad City is it's a sitcom. It's really the brainchild of two young women comedians. Now, I'll say that a lot of what's on Broad City can be a little bit vulgar, but when it's funny, it's very funny. So here's a particular episode. This episode is called the Birthmark episode, and it's a spoof of the birthright trips, especially birthright trips that are geared for young Jewish singles, unmarried young Jews, to meet each other and to be able to, the trip to Israel will help them find someone Jewish to marry, in addition to going to Israel. And they join the trip together. They're actually not going to meet anybody. They're actually going just to get the free trip. And they're trying to avoid the whole kind of meet people single scene, but that doesn't work out exactly. The person who's sort of coordinating what's going on the airplane trip, which is what this scene is about, is played by another Jewish actor, Seth Green. So let's watch what happens in the Birthmark episode on the plane.
Hello. Ilana?
Hi.
And Abby?
Yes.
I'm Jared. Welcome to Birthmark. Surf's up.
Cool.
For the next 10 days, we will be traveling around the holiest place in the world, Israel.
For free. Gotcha, Jews. Makes no sense.
Well, our beautiful country will teach you all about Judaism, its rich history, and I'm looking at the two of you, its reproductive future. We're almost home.
I see.
Jews, 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 Jews.
Dude, we better not make any new friends on this trip.
It's not about friends.
Right, it's that it's free.
No, it's about Israel. It's like Africa for Jews. It's about our souls. We're gonna find ourselves in the motherland.
Oh, right. Ladies, where are you seated?
I'm 18B.
No.
Oh my God. No.
Hold on.
Okay,
Ladies, is there something wrong?
Yes, Jared, what's up? We love the trip so far. We would love it even more if we could sit next to each other.
This is an all-expense-paid trip to Israel, provided by your living ancestors. So we're seated according to match potential.
Okay. All right.
Okay. You'll meet somebody very nice, I'm sure.
Hey, I'm Josh. I'm a junior accountant. I write short stories in my spare time, and I'm a Tough Mudder champion.
What? I'm grieving. I've just experienced a loss.
Would it kill you to try?
Enchanté.
Now, of course, it's exaggerating for a comedic point, but it's not what Birthright is. I mean, that is the point, to create an atmosphere that's relaxed, that's fun, and they've actually had a lot of success doing it. So it was something I think worth parodying. Now, the other place where Israel or Israelis really show up, an American television show, in more serious ones, is this new image of the Israeli as the ultimate tough person, tough, robust Jew. This really shows up. This is especially true when anyone who is Mossad shows up on a television show. This is also true in film as well. Mossad is almost code for the most capable intelligence or military person in the world. So on the show NCIS, which stands for Naval Criminal Investigative Services, it's sort of like a detective show in the Navy. At some point, the NCIS agents, they work a case together with Mossad, and a Mossad agent named Ziva David, she becomes part of NCIS first as an attaché or as on loan from Mossad, and then eventually she becomes an agent, a full NCIS agent. But when she's first introduced, they're basically showing the Israeliness of her. Now, she is not Israeli and she's not Jewish. She's actually Chilean, but I think she plays the part pretty well. So let's look at a couple of clips about Ziva David. The first one I think is a little more caricaturish. This is parodying, or at least sort of, explaining Israeli driving. Let's take a look at Ziva driving.
I would also like to know if I could drive the truck back to base. Might make me feel as if I actually accomplished something today.
Hey, not so fast.
I always drive fast. It's the best way to avoid possible IEDs and ambushes.
You're in America now. I wouldn't worry about it. How about this? Slow down or I'll puke on you.
Tony, why don't you like the American Civil War?
I don't talk about it. It's because of his father. Is she talking to you, Proby?
No, you didn't get along with your father. Explains a lot.
My father and I got along fine.
You say so. I think it's best to talk about things instead of burying them inside.
What about you? Your father, Deputy Director David, what's he like?
Slow down, we're taking the next left. Ziva, car!
Sorry. First time behind a wheel after a 6-month mission in the UK. I said I was sorry.
Stop there. Okay, so that one is just sort of, yes, that's how Israelis drive. I think it's maybe a little comic divergence, but I think there's something accurate about it, more or less, at least, in a caricature sort of way. One last clip from NCIS, just to show just how tough Ziva is, where she and one of the other NCIS agents are going to confront a gang of guys who they're outnumbered, but we're going to see that Ziva, the sole Mossad agent, is able to handle herself completely in that situation. So let's watch that last clip.
Popeye Carmado, NCIS. Are we all listening to the same song? Let me guess. Ricky Martin fans living La Vida Loca.
You gotta leave, man.
But we just got here.
Yeah, this is a very dangerous neighborhood.
That's why I brought her.
La bonita son federales.
La federal está bien buena. La bonita will kick your ass.
Is that right? You know, bad things happen in this place, mamita.
But it's so homey. Homie, I love what you've done with the wall here. Snoopy loves Chiquita. Which one of you sleeps on a doghouse and which one's a banana? I'm guessing the love is between you two. Am I wrong? Think they want to play rock, paper, scissors? You got them?
I got them.
What's the matter? Popeye didn't eat his spinach this morning? Rico! Chewie! Rico Suave's stuck in the 90s, and Chewie's back with the Millennium Falcon. Let's go see how La Bonita did.
What took you so long?
They didn't even bother showing how she did it. The assumption is she's Ziva David. She's Israeli. She's Mossad. She can handle it. There's another scene where they need to interrogate a potential suspect and get some information. And basically, Ziva goes into the room by herself. And this is a person who's absolutely refusing to speak. Comes out 15 minutes later and has all the information. And they don't even, they don't even need to explain why. It's that's what it really comes to symbolize. So really in these 4 sessions, we've come a long way because at the beginning, when we first started, other than the show like the Goldbergs, there's a minimally Jewish presence, but by the time we get to the end, Jewishness in all its fashions is familiar enough that shows can make references to various Jewish things and a broad American viewing audience is able to understand. In many ways, that's where television is right now. Now, what comes next in television, well, that's going to depend. But dramas and comedies both, they've taken the challenge of trying to address larger Jewish issues, both here in Israel, other places. And as things move forward, they'll continue to do that. And this brings us to the close of this series. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Howard. I'm sure I'm thanking you for everyone. And just maybe a couple of questions, because we have a couple of minutes. One is, did you recognize a change since American TV started buying or purchasing also Israeli content? Did that have any effect you noticed on American TV?
Absolutely. I mean, the streaming, which made it not only brought Israeli content here, but made it easier for American audience to watch. Absolutely. And in both respects, Israeli comedy shows, especially Eretz Nehederet, which is like Israeli Saturday Night Live, and other Israeli sketch shows like that, more and more of these episodes are subtitled English so Americans can watch them, but always specifically the ones, or often specifically the ones that Americans will most appreciate. So, for example, on Eretz Nehederet, they also did a spoof of Birthright Trips, where they actually have Israeli actors really doing a great caricature of young American Jews going to Israel for the first time. So yes, there's a lot more like that, both in comedies, but also in the realm of drama as well. So Israeli dramas like Fauda and Tehran. Noah Tishby is another great example where she is an Israeli actress whose show was streamable here. But also that she became an ambassador for the state of Israel. She's someone who is very well known. And of course, someone like Gal Gadot, who is more in movies but television. So there's always more familiarity. And the familiarity, I think the offshoot, the one that happened after Fauda is the guy who created Fauda, Leo Raz, created another show called Hit and Run, which he filmed in New York. It's a different character, but actually most of it was set in America as opposed to Israel. He was only able to do 1 season because it was so expensive to shoot in New York. But yes, in answer to the question, streaming in particular has made Israeli shows and Israeliness so much more accessible, and it's beginning to have an impact as well.
Thank you. Maybe one last question, which I don't know if it has an answer, but the end of this series, is there any Jewish character that you feel you're missing from American TV, that if you had to say, I want to see this character?
I think once upon a time that would have been more true. I think it took American television longer to catch up, to move beyond stereotypes. Because remember, until the 1980s, American television shows were very white. They were very old-fashioned. They were centered around the nuclear family, but not only the nuclear family, the family where the wife is a housewife and the father works and the children, they fall into these categories. But since the 70s, especially the 80s, they've caught up with everybody else. So I think American TV is still learning, but I think there is more contribution, not only from Jews, from Israelis, but from cultures all over the world. And so it's become more of a global enterprise as opposed to once upon a time it was more an American enterprise in the very melting pot sense of that term. And I see examples in the chat of other shows. Yes, I could have mentioned Brooklyn Bridge and Picket Fences, and the list goes on and on. I think we could probably do a whole nother series using a whole different set of clips, because it is something that, especially in the last 20 years, has gotten more and more prevalent as Jews and things Jewish have become more mainstream and just more people were aware of them. State of Grace, another good idea. Yes, all these great.
It seems based on the chat that we could definitely have another series about TV shows, and it's also good to know we have you here for the continuation of the series about Jews on the silver screen and the traditional music in America. For those of you who asked, this recording will be sent, and in the follow-up email you'll also receive the recordings of the 3 previous programs. Howard, thank you very much. It was was a pleasure, and I'm very
Thank
happy
you, everybody.
having programs with you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day or a good night, wherever you are.